Let's talk about debts. So, can you do a video about how someone can build wealth from scratch from somebody who is currently in debt and has no money? We'd love to know your tips on how to get out of this pickle and into a better place. Now, I think I'm pretty well qualified to talk about this because I recovered from the brink of bankruptcy with multi six figures in bad debt, was able to get myself out of that situation and build over $5 million in net wealth by my mid-30s. So hopefully I can give you some hope and a bit of a framework to follow that's going to assist. Now, this is not advice. This is purely educational. Make sure that you do your own research and look to seek advice before taking action on this. Now, let's talk about this. Now, this situation is really tough because ultimately we need to overcome the mindset that comes with being in debt and feeling like we are falling behind. This is something that a lot of kind of financial advisors and financial gurus don't really talk about, is the burden that we carry when we have a lot of debt and the sense of feeling not worthy because we have made decisions that have ultimately got us into this situation. Now, we've got to realize that as human beings, we make the best choice that is on life's menu at that particular point in time. Like, most of us do not go out and make bad decisions on purpose, and we need to acknowledge that there are situations that we have navigated to the best of our ability, and as a result, we've got ourselves into this situation. We must take extreme ownership of this situation. For myself personally, I got into multi-six figures in bad debt because of two things. One, my old man got sick with stomach cancer. He couldn't work for over 12 months, and he basically had no insurances, so the burden of the mortgage and paying all of the bills and providing for the household fell onto my shoulders. I then decided that the brilliant idea was to go and start an e-commerce business, and I tried to scale that business. And it became a cash-eating monster, and I got myself into a pretty bad situation as a result of that. I thought it was a good decision at the time because I was looking for shortcuts. And I had a choice. I had the ability to declare bankruptcy, clear those debts, and basically wait for 7 years to kind of start again, or make the decision to get myself out of that situation. And that was the decision that I made. So what did I do? First thing is I started creating a plan. I got clear on all of my debts. So what were the amounts that I had outstanding? What were the interest rates? What were the monthly minimum repayments? Second, I needed to determine how quickly I wanted to get out of debt. So for me, I ideally wanted to pay off all of those debts within 18 months. So I basically worked out, okay, well, what do I need to do in order to pay that off? Thirdly, I identified that there were 3 strategies in order to pay off debts when you've got multiple debts. There is what is called the debt snowball, whereby you focus on the smallest debt first, irrespective of the interest rate, and you then pay it off from the smallest to largest. This is not the most financially beneficial way because obviously it makes most sense to pay off the highest interest rate first. However, from a mindset standpoint, when you start with the smallest and you pay that off, you feel the gratification of having extinguished that debt. So from a behavioral standpoint, it's far more motivating. The other one is what's called the debt avalanche, where you're focused on the highest interest rate first, irrespective of the size of the debt. This makes the most sense financially. We focus on paying that off, irrespective of how long it takes. And then essentially, once we've extinguished that debt, we then move on to the next one. And the third one is what's called the debt traffic light, which basically analyzes the efficiency of the debt. So you look at what the minimum repayment is and you divide that by the amount of the loan. And then if it is a smaller number, it is inefficient. If it's a larger number, it's more efficient. And then you focus on paying off the most inefficient debt first, because basically the minimum repayment considers based on the size of the loan. And when you pay that off, essentially, once again, it's a similar exercise of the snowball strategy, but depending on your loans, they might have heavier repayments. So that's something you need to keep in mind. I personally chose the snowball strategy because I wanted to focus on getting that momentum and feeling like I was progressing. And once I'd kind of set up that strategy, debt only gets paid off and wealth only gets built with surplus. So what I needed to work out is that based on the plan that I'd set of all of those debts, using the snowball strategy and wanting to be debt-free in 18 months, I needed to work out how much surplus I needed to have in order to contribute to those loans to achieve that goal. So what I basically did is I crunched my numbers on my household. I didn't kind of scrimp or save or eat cornflakes for dinner. I tightened the belt on some things for that 18 months, but I didn't go crazy because I realized I still needed to have joy and satisfaction in my life. But what I did is I worked out, well, what was my income target that I needed to hit in order to have the amount of surplus that I needed in order to achieve that goal. And what that then allowed me to do is then go into my business and work out exactly what I needed to do, how much I needed to earn, what was the exact activity, so then I could achieve that goal. And I just focused on that. Over the course of that period of time, I grew and scaled my business. I obviously increased my profitability, and then as a result of that profit, I was able to fully pay off that multi-six figures in bad debt in 18 months, and then start again from scratch. And then I've now utilized that in order to amass over $5 million in wealth. Now, the important part of all of this is that you must have control over your ability to earn an income. So if you're a business owner, this is about reverse engineering your numbers to surplus into personal income into profit, profit into revenue, revenue into clients, into pricing, into leads. So you can connect your activity to these outcomes. And obviously, as a business owner, you have far more control over this than other people do. If you're an employee, you still have control over this. You must understand, what are the economics of your role in the business? And how do you go and demand more value for the value that you contribute to the business? So as a general rule of thumb, in my team, I use the rule of thirds. That for the revenue that a person produces, a third goes to them, a third goes to the operating expenses, and a third goes to profit. So as a business owner, I can expect to get at maximum typically a third of the revenue that anybody creates. Now, if you're a profit driver, so you're in a sales role, you're in a leadership role, you're in a marketing role, you have the ability to quantify that far easier. But if you're in a more of an operational or a delivery role, there's still value. It's just harder for you to determine. So you need to work out, how do you manufacture more profit, or how do you save more cost for the business that you work for? And the clearer you can be, because most business owners and managers don't understand the economics of the role, they typically have just picked a number out of the air. You need to create transparency and say, hey, this is the value that I create in my role. I need to earn this much in order to achieve my goals of being debt-free. If I are able to help you achieve this in the business, would you be prepared to pay me a bonus or give me a pay rise in relation to that value that I can create? And the response is going to be one of two things. Either, yes, certainly we'd do that, or maybe we need to adjust the target, but if you do achieve this, we'll give you Y. Or no, and then you go and find another job that is prepared to give you that value based on the contribution that you make to that business. If any of my employees come to me having this conversation, this is music to my ears. This is what I want in my business. I want value drivers, and I'll be more than happy to share in the value that they create. So this is a bit of a crash course. The last point that I will give you is paying off debt, and the habit of paying off debt is one of the best skills you will ever learn, on the assumption that you take that habit that you build as a result of extinguishing this debt, and then once it's extinguished, then transfer it into building wealth. The biggest mistake that you will make is that you take that for granted, and once your debt is fully paid off, that you don't convert all of that contribution into building wealth. Because the reality is, if we can keep that going, then that is going to help you amass a tremendous amount of wealth over the future. And we've used this with many of our clients, and I've used this personally in order to springboard myself. What some people, or what I'd say the vast majority of people do, is they pay off their debt, then the foot comes off the accelerator, and they end up just spending all of that extra money playing catch up on lifestyle because they've kind of sacrificed. And that is one of the worst things that you can do. So I hope this has been helpful. I cover all of this off in my book, my first book, if you're an employee, which is called Enjoy the Journey, Creating Wealth and Living the Life That You Desire. Or if you're a business owner, there's a whole heap of other books that I have written. My latest book that has just come out, The Wealth Mastery Machine, The Definitive Guide to Financial Freedom as a Business Owner. Go check that out. Link in the bio if you want to grab a copy. Hope this is helpful.